Yes. This is Arthur Lewis with All Farm Gardening, coming to you live from the Grenada Food Forest. My mission is to get you growing. This video is all about starting a garden right now, today. I know you really want to start. I know you've been putting it off because you're feeling overwhelmed. You're not quite sure. Hey, listen, I'm here to show you just how easy it is to start. You seriously don't need to overthink anything. You don't have to put in state-of-the-art AI-driven smart systems. You just need to get out there and start building your operation as you grow. Start the easy way, gain some XP points, get some garden success, build your confidence, then try more things. Guys, before we dive into the video, just put a click of fertilizer on that like button, and when you share this video, you're really irrigating this channel and helping it to grow just like our beautiful gardens. In our last video, we spoke about some of the benefits of gardening. After seeing the video, people came to see me about starting a garden. I got calls. One call lasted for more than an hour. This call is really the inspiration behind this video. Just want to say shout out to subscriber Ceylon Lewis. Thanks for the love, thanks for the support. It means a whole lot. Listen, my whole thing here with the Grenada Food Forest, with the Agro Culture Project, is all about building communities that could build communities. I thought it was a nice chat. I thought it could benefit more people who might be dealing with the same blockers as it pertains to starting the garden. And with this, I've come up with 6 tips to help you get your garden started right now, today. Tip number 1, it doesn't matter what plant, what matters is that plant matter is matter. And as a matter of fact, all matter requires space. If you didn't get all that, what I'm really saying here is that if you're going to start a garden, then you need somewhere to put that garden. It doesn't have to be a big space, as long as you can grow in that space and as long as the plants that you are growing can get the required sunlight, water and nutrients that they need to grow. If you have acres available, grow on that. You can grow in your yard. You can grow on vacant lots in your community, assuming that you have the permission to do so. You can even ask people who have property that they are not using if you can grow on those property. As a matter of fact, I have a friend who have 2 acres. He doesn't have the time to garden on that land. Another friend who lived close to the property saw that the land was idle for some time, went to the first friend and asked him, hey, can I garden on your property? And the owner was happy to allow him to garden. They came up with an agreement of how they're going to split production. Everybody wins, and I'm just super excited to experience the vibes and the way that gardening brings people together in community and in love. If there is someone in your community with some space that they are not using and you could use that space for gardening, today might just be your lucky day. If you don't have the option of land space, then you can also garden in containers. Here at the Grenada Food Forest, I have a big space which inspires the scale of my gardening. But before I found this space, I always grew in containers. I love to cook and I like to grow my own seasoning and herbs for my dishes. I've also gardened out in the yard. As a matter of fact, when I lived at Dabo down in St. George's, my brothers and I kept a market garden in the tiny little yard, and we were also able to generate good income selling our produce to one of the local supermarkets. The main idea is, if you're going to garden, then you need a space to put that garden. It doesn't have to be a big place. I met a woman recently who has been living on a boat for over 10 years on the sea, sailing all over the world. And she's a gardener. On board the vessel, she has pots and containers, and she grows ornamentals, she has herbs growing, and she also grows seasonings. Tip number 2 is your soil. And that is because you need a rich nutrient soil for your plants to grow. Here at the Grenada Food Forest, I grow in the ground where the soil is rich and fertile, so this is not a worry I have. If you're in a similar situation, then you're well on your way. I turn the soil at least once to break it up because vegetables need loose soil to grow. Then I might add some sand and compost if necessary. I use a shovel and a spade to form raised beds, which I continue to maintain because I do not like having to turn the soils to regular. Whenever I turn the soil, I feel like I'm disturbing the soil's microbiology, and I end up killing a whole bunch of earthworms, and that is the reason why me really like to turn the soil. So I will do it at least once if I really have to, and continue gardening with a no-dig style after that. If you have bad soil like most urban areas, or if you're gardening in containers, you would have to make the soil or get the soil from somewhere else. You can buy compost or garden mix from any store with a gardening section, or you can make your own compost and your own soil mix. It will be cheaper, it might be healthier. If you're a beginner, however, which most likely you are, it might be more convenient for you to buy the compost or the garden mix, or get some real topsoil from an excavated site if you have that connection. Once you have your soil ready, prepare your beds, prepare your containers, and get ready to start gardening. Gardening makes me so thirsty. But do you know who else in your garden gets very thirsty? That's right, your plants. Water is very important for your garden, and plants do require a lot of water to grow. So if you're going to start a garden, make sure you have a good water source that can give you sufficient water for the scale of your gardening operation. If you're living in a tropical climate like me, where there is sufficient rainfall throughout the year, you can set up a system that allows you to harvest the rainwater so that you could reuse that water in your garden. This is important to note because when I speak to people who are thinking about getting into a garden, usually people say to them that you have to be located close to a river, or you have to be located or connected to the city's plumbing system in order for you to do a garden, especially a garden of the size like what I have here. No, I'm not going to lie, it will be convenient to have those things located close to your garden, but if you can capture enough water from the rain, you absolutely do not need them. I have these barrels on the property here that people use to ship stuff overseas, and I've started hooking up some basic plumbing system to those barrels because I'm working on a low pressure drip irrigation system. For now, I just have a piece of hose with a tap that I turn on and water the plants. These barrels are no longer enough because I've scaled up my gardening operation, and so I must scale up my rainwater harvesting. So I am planning to get larger containers like the big rainwater tanks. I'm also thinking about building a concrete reservoir that I could use to capture more rainwater for me to use in the garden. What is important to note though is that I'm not waiting for these things to start gardening. I'm not waiting for all the stars and all the planets to align. I'm starting my gardening operation with what I have, and I am building, scaling as I grow. Tip number 4, tools. You gotta have tools because tools make the job easy, and tools remind us that we're king among the primates. The tools that you need for your gardening depends on the scale of your gardening. If you're gardening on a scale similar to mine, you'll need stuff like wheelbarrow, forks, machetes, spades, shovels, garden hose, just to name a few. In my garden, I have an old piece of shovel that nobody should be using. I know it's a third world country. Nobody should be using that. I have some pruning shears. While filming the video, I bought this new spade because, like I said, I had a piece of shovel that nobody should be using. I have this worn out cutlass, a garden fork that I built myself, and I have this hoe. I also have a weed eater, weed whacker, and I have a chainsaw. I really need to upgrade my tool set, but I cannot postpone my food independence, food security, and other gardening benefits. So I am starting with what I have, and as usual, I am building, scaling as I grow. Deciding what to grow depends on your situation. You have to think about what grows well in your area. You have to think about your growing season. You have to think about growing what you like to eat. And if you're growing for market, you have to think about what the market demands. Once you've checked all your boxes and you know what you want to grow, you can start growing. If you're growing in a tiny space, you don't want to grow plants that like to crawl and climb with exaggerated foliage that will become an inconvenience once they start growing. If you're living in a cold climate, you may not be able to grow plants that only grow in the tropics. Those extreme situations aside, you can always find plants that are easy to grow, will grow within the growing season, will look beautiful as they grow, and provide delicious food for you. For example, lettuce. Lettuce is very easy to grow. Anyone can grow lettuce. It can be grown in the ground, it can be grown on a raised bed, it can grow in container. And it adds great personality to your salads and your sandwiches. Basil is another plant that is very easy to grow. You can start them rooting in just a cup of water, stick them in the ground, stick them in a container. There are tons and loads of other plants that are very easy to grow. I can cover them in another video, so stay tuned to this channel for all your gardening tips. Gardening doesn't stop after you stick the plant in the ground or in a raised bed or in a container. Actually, when you stick the plant in the ground, that's when the gardening starts. You now have to nurture that plant and take care of that plant until it's ready to harvest. That is why, if you're serious about gardening, one of the most important resources that you need is time. You have to allocate enough time to be in your garden, to take care of your plants, your crops, to protect your investment in cases where you're gardening for the market. You have to be patient, observant. You have to watch the way your crops are growing. That is how you are going to know what to do in the garden. Your soil may need amending. Your plants, your garden may need weeding. You may need to repair old or build new structures. You just have to be present, and you just have to spend the time. So that's it for this video. It's been a pleasure growing with you guys. If you benefited from the video, drop a like, click one of the other videos on the screen for more gardening tips. And guys, don't forget to get out there and get growing.